Hi guys, I'm Louis.
And I'm John.
And we are with American Homeland Title.
We wanted to talk to you today about how to read a closing disclosure and an ALTA HUD-1 settlement statement. First, I'm going to go over the buyer's closing disclosure. When you look at the closing disclosure, at the top you're going to have some basic information. It's going to talk about the closing date, who the settlement agent is, file number, property address, sales price, and who the buyer is, and who the seller is, and who the lender is. So basic information. When you get to the first number, it's going to talk about the loan amount. It's going to talk about whether that loan amount can increase or not, and typically it's going to say no. The second thing you're going to find is the interest rate. It's going to tell you what the interest rate is, and it's going to tell you whether that interest rate can adjust. If you have a fixed rate loan, it's going to say no. If you have an adjustable rate loan, it will say yes, as that rate can adjust. Then it'll give you your principal and interest. It'll tell you whether the principal and interest can change. And then if you move on down here, it's going to talk about what your actual monthly payment is. So the monthly payment is going to be your principal and interest plus any escrows for taxes, insurance, or mortgage insurance. And the bottom line is going to tell you cash to close. If this is a positive number, that's the amount of money that you need to bring to buy the property. And if it's a negative number, it doesn't happen too often, but sometimes you get a house and you get a check back.
So I'm going to go over the seller's closing disclosure. The top part will show the basic information. The top box is going to show the sales price, any additions to the seller. The box below that is going to be a summarization of page 2. It's also going to show the reductions from the seller, the payoffs, and the tax prorations. And the bottom line, if it's a positive, it will show what the seller is receiving back at closing. If it's a negative, it's going to show what the seller is bringing to closing.
The next thing to go over is the HUD-1 settlement statement. The HUD-1 settlement statement is essentially taking the buyer's closing disclosure and the seller's closing disclosure and merging them together. The difference is that the buyer's personal loan information, which is on the buyer's closing disclosure, is excluded. You're going to have the seller's information on one side and the buyer's information on another side. The numbers ultimately are going to net out to the same at the bottom. The way this runs is you'll see the sales price at the top, and then you're going to see your debits and credits. Ultimately, when you get down to the bottom of page 2, you're going to see the net number and whether the buyer needs to bring money to closing or they're going to get money at closing. And the same thing with the seller. You're going to see whether the seller is getting money at closing or whether they need to bring money to closing. And that pretty much goes over how to read a closing disclosure and HUD-1 settlement statement.
So guys, that pretty much sums it up.
If you have any more questions about how to read a closing disclosure or a HUD-1 settlement statement, reach out to us at American Homeland Title.